welcome to Retro Horror School Talks, the podcast where we talk about retro horror and retro horror related topics. I am Brandy, otherwise known as the Terrorific Lady, and I've dragged my latest guest on here, kicking and screaming, Luke Greensmith of the Luke Lore podcast. So welcome, Luke. I am so glad to have you on here. Finally, we've been back and forth a bit.
Yeah, we had to keep rain check, push it down a little bit. But nope, we're here, we're sorted, and we've got an incredible film to talk about.
Yes, we do. But before we dive into the movie that we're going to be talking about, I want you to talk a little bit more about who you are and what you do over on the Luke Lore podcast.
Well, the Luke Lore podcast is part of it, a big part of it. Luke Lore is a shorter form folklore podcast. It'll be about roughly half an hour episodes, unless there's a guest on, they tend to run longer. 4-ish segments, and just quick, deep dive, all kinds of crazy folklore topics. Everything from all sorted furry creatures, the dragons around the world, down to weirder stuff, like there's an episode entirely about cheese. Cheese! Folklore to do with cheese, weird things like the cheese turned up, so the goes into a bit of detail about where the myth cheese before bedtime gives you nightmares from. It turns out there was a student body in a prestigious university who did believe this. They were a writing circle, and they would make themselves Welsh rarebits to try and induce nightmares and get drunk to try and tell the wildest stories the next day. All kinds of fun things, madness. Some of the things you'd expect, you'll go in there, you'll find Nessie, you'll find some Bigfoot, you'll get some of the weirder stuff, there's one episode is called So You've Been Buried Alive, and it's got some folklore themed around stuff in the ground, and also a segment on what to do if you have been buried alive, you wake up underground in a coffin, and what's the best way to escape.
That episode would give me nightmares.
Yeah, there's that, and one other one that I get a bit of flack for. So I put a disclaimer up at a technology-based one, because it goes over Ryoko's Basilisk, which is a conceptual evil that as soon as you know about it, you're in trouble. So once you've been onboarded with all the details, you're in its sights. So, little things like that. You have to put the occasional disclaimer in, a little bit of a horror does escape into there. And I'm also a cross-media horror writer. So a video game I wrote the prototype for, a narrative horror game called Dead Letters, was at Gamescom, which is the big convention for video games recently. And in about 2 weeks, a adaptation of a fairy tale into a modern context the filming starts in Croatia. So I get around, I'm about the place.
So you're just anywhere and everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, it's like a Venn diagram. We've got folklore, we've got horror games, we've got horror movies, and then in the middle is me.
And we will be telling everybody, or you'll be telling everybody, not me, but you'll be telling everybody where they could find you once we reach the end of this episode. But we're not at the end of this episode. We're still at the very beginning, and I am very pumped to be talking about the movie that we will be talking about today. A first time watch for me. I literally just watched it this morning to prepare for this episode today. It is the remake of the 1950s movie, The Blob. So, this came out in 1988. And it was one of those movies that did not get the attention it deserved. It was a box office flop. People were meh about it back then. But over the years, it's built this huge cult following. I could definitely see why. There's weird conspiracy angles. There was really practical effects, really gross practical effects, and just ruthless, brutal, no mercy kills. So it's an awesome remake, and I cannot wait to dive into it further with you on this episode. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's one of a trio of these remakes that had extreme physical practical effects. So it's there with Carpenter's The Fly, Cronenberg's The Thing, and then we've also got this, which, who was the director on this again? And he is actually Chuck Russell. Chuck Russell did this. The year before he did this, he did A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Yep. I'm a share.
Oh yeah, we're on camera. I can see the shirt now. Oh yeah.
What the flippy floppy there is actually Carpenter that directed the remake of the thing, and Cronenberg that directed the flop.
Yeah. If I said that wrong, that was just my brain being slightly fried.
I just like to start off with a question that's something I'm always very curious about. Is I love to hear about when people first saw the particular movie that they want to talk about on a particular episode. So, do you remember the first time that you saw the remake of The Blob?
Exact age? No. Too young? Yes. We're talking like maybe a 10-year-old.
Oh my god!
Some of what I saw was life-changingly terrifying. Okay, like the film I saw too young that broke my brain was Pet Sematary. That one was just a bit too far.
God.
But I saw this, and like there was a family. There was cousins, older cousins showing me this stuff. And these older cousins, they showed me this. They showed me Attack of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is much scarier when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And Hellraiser. So that was a great onboarding into horror, courtesy of my cousins.
It's like the very first horror movie I ever saw was also Hellraiser. Too young, but way too young. That seems to be a common thing among people who watch horror movies. Their horror movies are first, just way too freaking young. But that's probably why we're so weird today.
It made an impact. I mean, some stuff I watched too young. It was like the Friday the 13th sequels, and they were just things happening. They weren't that extreme. But then you get to the horror movies that aren't just spectacle. They're also trying to freak you out in other angles. And the core concept of how this thing is killing you in the Blob, it's quite horrible. And also, this particular remake does smash the occasional taboo, and we'll get to one taboo it does crush, which really messes with you as a kid.
Yes, and I think I know exactly the taboo that you're thinking of. We're definitely going to be talking about that. But as I mentioned, this is a remake of, I had looked up the year, so the original Blob came out, I believe, in 1958. So 30 years later, this remake comes on the scene. So what do you think that director Chuck Russell and then also co-writer Frank Darabont, what do you think they did to this remake in particular to make it stand out on its own and separate it from the original?
Well, the original creative team were involved in this. Originally, it had an earlier version of the script. So that was Theodore Simonson, Kay Lineker as Kate Phillips, and then Irvine H. Millgate got a story credit. They were all in the original, and they all had an earlier version of the script for this. So I think you still get a bit of the feel of the 50s, which is it had Charlton Heston's first starring role, the original The Blob, where he played a teenager when he was 27. That was just the way it was. And he played a greaser. There was a bit of a bad boy there. And that feel just come across into this remake of The Blob. You still have that bad boy character. You've got the small town Americana is strong with this one. And that's what the 50s one went for. The 50s one doesn't quite feel like a 50s movie. It was 58. It felt like the 60s wave more than the 50s B-movie wave, although it was very cheesy. So what they've done here is, and it probably still was cheesy, but then you get Frank Darabont on. I mean, it's the Frank Darabont, the big Stephen King adapter. He came up with the twist to the mist that Stephen King was annoyed he didn't think of. And he's definitely had a hand on this. I reckon the main thing that they saw, and it's one of the best things to do with a horror remake, is they found a cheesy classic and they went, we can take the horror from a 2 to an 11. And they really bring out that just utterly dreadful side of things. The cheese is gone, the terror has replaced it.
And the tone of this movie was it was dark. I don't expect that a lot from these horror films, but I'm big into slashers, so I expect a lot of the cheesy kind of camp that goes along with 80s horror films. This, I was watching, I was like, oh my god! I was yelling that out a few times as I was watching, this is disgusting.
It does have the small bits of humor in there at times, Although the humor is also inappropriate at the times as well. We'll go to that when we get to a kill, because it's something that's worth pointing out. It doesn't kill any animals.
No,
It
does not.
threatens a cat and a dog, but either they were being nice about that, or the blob just really likes the taste of people, and it gets through a lot of people. There's not much small town left by the end of this.
No, there's not. I have to give it to the blob for not killing animals. That's fine. Yeah, kill all the people you want, but just like leave the dogs and cats alone.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the one place it doesn't go.
Yeah, it definitely goes like to a lot of other places. What I thought was interesting too, just about this movie, is it leaned into that government conspiracy angle rather than it just being like this creature from outer space, which I think the original Blob was. Correct me on that. I haven't seen like the. Okay, cool, but. Government conspiracy stuff just makes me just go, ooh. So I thought that was an interesting angle to throw into that too, that this was man-made, that Blob was man-made in this one.
Yeah, and it's got kind of like that punk undertone that you get like with a lot of 80s stuff. Because again, it's horror, this is the fringes. The bad boy that's a bit of a drifter is the main protagonist, kind of. He's the closest thing to a hero. The government are the problem, and they make things worse. And even in the middle of a natural disaster, they'll be a problem that might kill other people as they go through this.
Yeah.
And the small town police are useless. So the small town police aren't really portrayed as evil or systemically bad. We're not at ACAB yet. There was still some hope left in the 80s. But they were pretty useless. It was down to like the younger generation to try and get shit together.
And they definitely did, because I think like the small town police, I think one got shot and the other one got consumed by the blob.
The sheriff kill was one of like the standout moments that like was traumatic as a kid. Like the first time I quote unquote saw that, it was from behind my hands in a heap on the floor screaming.
I could imagine, just even seeing that now is just like seeing it as an adult, it's just like, oh my God. There were like several moments, oh my God moments. Speaking of, whenever you're watching the Blob or you think of the Blob, what is the first, oh my God, like peek through the hand moment that comes to your mind, other than the sheriff kill?
I mean, we've got the sheriff kill, and I just recommend all horror fans watch this. If you've not caught this yet, this is a bit of an underground classic, but is a classic. It's really good. The gore itself, it's not that bloody, but that's mostly because people are being digested. The one that stuck with me the most was really, it's almost a throwaway. There's a cinema scene, and it's really poking holes at like Americana again. The blob comes through the ceiling. It's plucking people up like popcorn. I think that's very deliberate for the cinema scene. And the older sister is trying to save a younger brother who sneaked into a horror movie. And as all of this is going horribly wrong, she tries to shake someone on the floor to see if she's okay, like, to get her up. And she rolls her back, and she's partially melted into the floor. And that, for whatever reason, that little moment of empathy and trying to help someone, and that part melted, it got me more than some of the louder ones, because like people scream quite a lot while they're being digested in this movie.
Definitely
the quiet moment is probably the one that got to me those. And then there's the taboo breaker. So like this is a sewer scene. Normally, like, you can fire up other classics. You can go watch Critters 2, and all the kids will be fine. You can watch that a bit younger, and children will have the aura of invincibility. You get to the blob, and there's a moment where they should, like, if this was a normal horror movie that was following the rules, they would save the kids, it'd be a small moment to get out. No, you get to see a small boy enveloped and die screaming. So that was cool, especially when I was a kid and I came in with this, oh, the kids must be okay. And then you just get the message, hello, reality calling? No, bad things happen to children too.
I saw that. I was like, so they're going there, okay. Because yeah, usually in horror movies, that's just like the one taboo is that you don't hurt children, and
Yeah, yeah.
this remake was just like, nope, we're just gloves off, we're hurting everybody.
Yeah, the remake like draws a line and just going, no one is safe. So even as you had it, like it does that twice. The first time it does it is a really minor one, and that is the all-American, gee golly gosh, quarterback, and he's ringing to get help, and he's one of the earliest seen kills. He should be the hero, and that the film immediately outlines no. And then as you're headed towards the finale, like this is when Act 3 is really picking up, and the government are revealed as arseholes, and they were trying to get out of the sewers. You even had a slightly lucky, convenient save where like all the characters come together and yeah, we're going to end on a high, and they execute the child to set the stakes in place is that no one is safe.
Yeah, and I have to mention this movie is absolutely brutal with its characters. Just like you mentioned, Paul, that kill was nasty, but he looked like the protagonist, and I thought he was going to be because he's just like, oh, the clean cut, kind of good looking, sports guy who's gonna like make it to the end and get the girl. No, he died really early. I think not even 20 minutes into the film, so that was very unpredictable. It's like, do you think that this unpredictability is part of the reason just why the Blob just feels so effective at times?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, true fear comes from the unknown. When something's following kind of a safe script and you're just having a good time, that's like the safe roller coaster. This was someone dressed as a clown jumping out the bushes and chasing you down the street. You'd have no idea how safe you are or are not at that moment and don't want to risk it. That's the level it's putting you at. It's because it's very easy to get jaded as a horror fan. And like the people will misinterpret that and say, oh, it's not as scary as when I was a kid. No. As a kid, you didn't know anything. So everything was scary. So the curveballs that you get here put the threat up and they put it a lot more worrying. Like going into the finale, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the heroes are going to succeed. It does a few things that would normally be like fake stakes, like someone getting the shoe caught. And because of how it's been mocking you by destroying the rules every step of the way so far, you don't know what's actually going to happen. And that unpredictability, those curveballs, really do sell it as a solid horror movie.
And it is really solid. So just like the curveballs, the unpredictability, the tone, and particularly the practical effects, just like practical effects in the 80s are both like, for me, part wow and part cheesy, but I think that they still hold up just because of the fact that they are practical effects. So how do you feel that the practical effects in the Blob stack up to, say, other like famous horror remakes like John Carpenter's The Thing or Cronenberg's The Fly?
I reckon The Fly of the three holds up the best because it stays small scale. The scale in The Thing and The Blob does go up and you get a bit of stop motion in there. It's just not quite as good. And also, once you move into spectacle, you move into rule of cool, you start losing the intimacy, you start losing the fear. But it's up there. Like I say, this is the three big these remakes that just go in with effects basically at their peak. Once you get to the 90s, you've got Jurassic Park, but even then you're going digital more and more. We're at the peak of where the technology could get around this time, and it had no lazy options to back out of. And like we're going sideways here, but a little bit on The Thing. The Thing needed to film around its rigs, and the Blob will have as well. And that forced creativity through restrictions. Whereas you get to like the 90s and the noughties, and it's just like, we'll get it in post, just point the camera in the right way, and then we'll put the monster in there, it'll be fine. And it ended up like giving lazy options beyond the fact that technology wasn't quite there to look realistic anyway. This is the tipping point where the people are at the top of their craft before it moves into that. And you'll see some things in the Blob. They do impressive things. Even the small stuff before it all goes horribly wrong, when it's on the homeless guy's hand, and he tries to cut his own hand off with an axe, and it immediately moves up, cauterizing the wound and holding onto him. And like that poor sod. And when he's the first confirmed kill. The jock who should be the hero when they were smashing taboos with glee was like the second confirmed kill. You're in the hospital and you go and check on him and you take the cover off and he's dissolved from like the top of his chest down and everything just oozes out all over the place and you're looking at some impressively special, disgusting stuff. It's so visceral.
Yeah, it is it is dark and it is way nastier than the one that came before it in 1958. So, do you think that just the fact that the Blob is just nasty and dark and just like in your face at times, do you think that it makes this movie scary, scarier, fun, a little bit of both? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, jaded goreheads are going to just, like, this is going to be, like, the entertainment, pure entertainment for them, going, ooh, look at that, ooh, look at that. I reckon it appropriately, yes, I reckon it appropriately, it does appropriately set the stakes to be scary, because the nightmare fuel is, what if this thing got me and started dissolving me? So when I was younger, it was scary, and not just because, like, I was a kid, but because I'm looking at it, like, it must be horrifying to be like dissolved inside this thing so slowly. Now, a bit older, a bit more logical, you've got this cold comfort that, like, okay, rationalize. It'd probably smother me before it finished digesting me. You can't breathe. And hey, third degree chemical burns, it'll stop hurting after a while. But, like, they sell it so hard. Think of, like, the cinema projectionist. Like, you see him on the ceiling, and he's starting to come apart. He's alive enough to suffer, and I think part of that is, like, they do set that up, like, when it cauterizes a wound of the person trying to save themselves from it right at the start. It's holding you together while you die slow.
God, that's so creepy.
Yes.
It's like thinking about that, like, gross. But it was also just, I thought it was really fun just too as I was watching it. Just it was, if a movie that was made in the 80s can still just at times make me like in my seat, just make me like kind of go like my face just like a little bit. And sometimes I was going, cool, that's awesome. And I think that it's done. I think it's done its job.
Yeah, like, you won't have aged out of this one. Like, there's plenty of films you can watch, and you've got to give it a bit of an allowance for its time and place. Like, if you go and watch the 58, The Blob, you're there going, oh, this is a retro throwback, it's fun. But you go and watch The Blob, and it's going to cause those reactions. It's going to get you. It doesn't mean it's going to scare you, like, but you're going to be, if you're the kind of so inured gorehead, you're going to just get pure entertainment from it. Either way, it's going to get you.
Definitely. Definitely. And I just really love how this remake flips the script. I previously mentioned that the earlier one, it's not just this monster from space. It's the government just like, screwing things up and making a bioweapon that somehow escaped. I'm not really sure like how it flew out of the sky, like it's a like a meteorite. Maybe it dropped out of a plane or something. But yeah,
it was a satellite. They had it in a safe orbit. Right. So, like, they knew how dangerous it was, so they were testing on it in space. They screwed up and they crashed it, and then it immediately starts growing because it's like, it's gone from, like, being in a suspended state to, hey, there's food everywhere. And it grows. It grows.
Okay. So, in a way, they did kind of pay homage to the original being like, oh, it's a monster from space. But then it's like, oh, it's in space, but it's man-made and it's created by man.
Yeah, and like we talk about the government being a problem, they started being more concerned with keeping it a secret that it's their fault, and you get a bit no witnessy. But you also, like, it's not all downsides. There are times that you are Team Blob. So when the government soldiers start getting theirs, a bit Team the Blob. There's
Yes.
also it was probably meant to be funny, but there's like a kind of like a sexual assault thing going on there, like at the makeout point, where a comedy relief character is getting a girl drunk. And he's got in his boot, he's got like a bar set up to shake out cocktails. He's got a box of rings he gives girls to show how you're my girl, you're the one. He's got those tropes flying around, and he gets back in the car. And this girl has thankfully died while she was unconscious, and he goes to grope her while he thinks she's asleep, and she starts like melting away and falling away, and then the blob's got him. And I was team the blob at that point. Felt sorry for the girl. Grabby hands, got what was coming to him.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, those two instances that you mentioned, yes, I was team Blob, like, all the way. The others, I was like, no! Phone booth death in particular was just, like, so brutal because she was trapped and there was no way out. And then she had to see, like, the sheriff just, like, all suspended in the blob, like, all dead and stuff. And
That's
just like,
so good, though. Because, like, she is calling him for help, and he's right there, so dead. And they do a good job. And you don't always get this of selling the weight of the creature. So when it crashes in somewhere or it lands on someone, you get the feedback. You feels like it's so big and overwhelming. Like there's been stuff like this before where like it'd be like the silly comedy horror Mars Attacks where they shoot someone and then it's just CG skeleton crumbles away to dust. It could do that. It could just go poof and they're gone. No, like you're getting abused as this thing lands on you, and then you dissolve slowly. It's terrifying. It's great.
yeah, it just reminds me of just like a big blob of just like Drano or drain cleaner that's just like gained sentience and's come to life.
Yeah, it does what it says on the tin. It really is a blob. It's not misdirection.
No, yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. So yeah, if you're watching the movie The Blob, you're gonna get a blob, a slow movie blob that eats people.
Yeah. Reminds me of a meme doing the rounds, which is someone saying, "Oh, I'm going to go watch The Thing for the first time, and I bet I can come up with a better name for this." And then like the reply later is, "Nah, it's definitely a thing."
Yeah, I've seen that meme like going around too. Also the one where what was it? There's the dog at the party. They like it's like they don't know I'm the thing. I love that one. And I really do love who ends up being the main characters in this movie. So you have Kevin, why did I almost say Karen? No, Karen. Kevin, there we go. Kevin Dillon, who plays like the greaser, kind of like bad boy, rebel outsider. And then you have Shawnee Smith, who horror fans will know from being in the Saw franchise. She is the final girl in this movie, and she really does a step up. So between like the both of them, which of those characters do you feel anchors the movie? Do you feel just one or the other does, or do you think they both do?
I think they both do, because they both represent like the youth in different ways. So your bad boy, he's the rebel, and he's a rebel with a cause in this movie because we know the government's the arseholes. And everyone underestimates him because he's a troublemaker, but he's not a villain. But the small town very clearly resents that he's disruptive. And that's what the police, the local police don't like him. But it's just because he isn't one of them. But he shows his mettle all the way through the movie. The great thing is that we have our cool final girl, and she is awesome. She is pivotal in the finale. She shows herself to be a badass, even though she is the all-American cheerleader. She's not just along for the ride. She's not the prize to be won. She actually isn't won by anyone by the end, which is nice. She wasn't paired off as a appropriate breeding unit to reward the male co-star. And you know that she's something different and something special when her family try to give her a sleeping pill and she fakes taking it and takes that agency back herself and she goes out to start investigating. That's the big pivot from the character archetype.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, you're absolutely right, because usually you have just like the girl being paired off with somebody at the end. Yeah.
And she would be the damsel in distress, but like she is a driving force for investigation every step. When the bad boy just wants to leave, she wants to stay and help her family. When her brothers and his friend is attacked, she's not got a great win ratio for rescuing children, but she does get her brother out.
Yeah, so she's 1 for 2 there, so
That's more than the
50% chance
police
at
manage, it's
0.
more than the government manage, you know. So, like, 50% rescue ratio in this movie is actually impressive.
Yeah, I would say so, because usually it's just like a 0% rescue ratio.
0% survival rescue. The Blob is just so good. It's not something that's simple to run away from. It's amorphous. It can move in any direction. It's not quite the Thing levels of creative, but it can like lasso people, pluck you up, and as soon as it gets you, you can't get it off you. We don't see anyone successfully remove the Blob once it's got them anywhere in this movie.
No, we definitely do not. And with me finding it just this movie so good, I find it very hard to believe that it was just this box office flop. It had a $10 million budget. It definitely shows in the movie with all the special effects and the cool things they did. And it only made $8 million. So $8 million out of $10 million budget. So what do you think, or what are your thoughts on why this movie didn't land back then, but has become such a cult favorite now?
I lump this with The Thing and The Fly. They're ahead of their time. They are very removed from the common sensibilities of the time. They are raw. They are merciless. They want you to have a big emotional reaction to it. And I just don't think that really worked too well in that. Like everything of that era we're talking about, even something that's like spuns off into a massive franchise. So Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a bit too much when compared to its contemporaries. Because, like, what are the other big horror movies you look at there? We had The Exorcist, and it was controversial as all heck. It had people being carried out of the theaters. That was probably the big, let's call it the inciting incident of modern horror, where a mainstream movie was out there smashing taboos and being relentless. The other big horror beats before that, we were probably Psycho, which was more of a thriller, much more reasonable, even with its big twist. We had Jaws, the first big summer blockbuster. That was a horror movie, but it was still more about fun. And these are about trial by fire catharsis. Like these explorations, these big three, and like let's throw Alien in there as well. They're very in your face, and I think they had to go first to craft this. I don't think a general audience was ready for them. Like now, people have already gone first. What was it? Pratchett pointed out in one of his Discworld books that you get a giant mountain, and the first person to climb it is such an awe-inspiring moment. And then some years later, you've got grandparents going up there on their Sunday outings. Once it's been done, it can be done, but until it has been done, it's insurmountable. We've got so many things after this now. The fringe extreme blends into mainstream a lot. So like Terrifier 3 got a big cinema release, but these were the baby steps. These were the first things first. And I don't think they knew how to market it or what to do with it. Like, these are R-rated terrors. You can't just shove teenagers at it and hope for the best, which would be the best way to get money, usually. And this chews up and spits out teenagers. Quite literally, viscerally on screen.
Literally, yeah. Yeah. That's what I find just about a lot of horror movies that don't do well on release, and doesn't matter what the year, but then like some years on they become just like more popular. I find that I'm in agreement with you. It's just like they were ahead of their time, and just audiences and marketing just didn't know quite how to, not saying everybody in the audience, but in a general audience, like didn't quite know what to do with it. Marketing didn't know like how to promote it. It's just like, so it takes some years to just like get its full due.
Yeah, I mean, this was before the internet, so you would get trusted newspaper reviews and like film pundits, and they would go in and hate it, and then they would tell people not to go and see it, and that was it. That was your benchmark until word of mouth really seizes, and word of mouth then really picks up on the home release. So this probably did gangbusters on VHS, as much as that dates it even further. I watched it on VHS first time.
I watched it digitally.
We've come a ways, both in horror acceptance and style, and in distribution of said horror.
Yes, such a long way for sure. Woo! Now, when I'm thinking about this movie, it's kind of going off of like, well, how do you even promote it or categorize it? I'm very curious. Do you consider the Blob just like a creature feature? Or do you think it's leaning more straight up into body horror?
I mean, yeah, like horror, it's the broadest genre. Not always the deepest. It's sometimes about as deep as a puddle, but it is the broadest. And we've got the body horror. We've got it plays a lot like a disaster movie.
Hmm.
Like this could have been a wildfire.
Yeah.
You get a bit of cosmic horror, although you do get answers which puncture that. Because like the original Blob, it's like it fell out of space, you're all screwed. Good luck, have fun. That leads more into the cosmic horror, so that's dialed down in this. But for all of those added subgenres, I would say mostly creature feature, body horror. They're the most equally weighted. They're going to be like 40%, 40%, and then 20% of additional garnish.
Okay, very fair. So just like a little bit of all the above.
Yeah, it's quite equally weighted between creature feature and body horror. So a lot of body horror, it works from more of a disease angle, and like it erupts and it moves unseen. It moves very seen in this. So the delivery mechanism is what makes it the monster feature. And also when the Blob does get, let's call it, acquires enough mass, it's eaten a lot of people, and it basically becomes a kaiju right at the end.
Yeah, it does. And then like a frozen kaiju. Because that's how they ended up getting defeated. Turned to a big frozen kaiju, like diamond encrusted thing. I don't know how to describe how it was at the end.
We don't see what happens to it in this one, but the original, the Blob, they dump it in Antarctica, which is a great setup for a modern day sequel given global warming.
God, that would be the epitome of you're all screwed. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to it in a bit, but there is a reboot slash remake slash maybe sequel coming up. I would not be surprised if it began with this was dropped off somewhere cold and now it's gotten out.
Gosh, yeah, that would be a really good tie. It's almost like a continuation. Like, I hope they do it that way.
We'll see when we get there, but I'm excited it's coming. I always go into new horror, try to be as unjaded as possible and open and enjoy what's there. And we're eating good with horror lately. It's been a great year for horror. The 20s are going to be very well remembered for horror. And I'm hoping we're going to see that roll on into a, let's call it 2028. Let's see if they can get it out for a big decade anniversary for it.
Well, that would be like a good release date for that. Yeah, like I agree. The 2020s has just been amazing for horror, and you've especially seen a lot of home invasion horror. You've seen a lot of vampire horror coming back into play. So just like the whole idea surrounding just like, you know, the strangers is like in your house and you don't want them there and just like get out, which is kind of very apropos for the times that we're living in now. You've even had some pandemic horrors creep up on the scene, like with 2020's Host. There was another one that came out in the 2020s. It was called Sick. And then we had, I don't know if you classify this as horror, but then we had Eddington, Ari Aster's Eddington, that came out recently. That was set during that time as well.
I don't think that's out over here yet, so I'm not a chance to see that.
Oh, okay. I haven't had a chance to see it either. I want to. I love Ari Aster.
Yeah. Like I say, we've been eating good.
Yes, we have. There's been no shortage of awesome horror coming out in the 2020s. Now, going back to the Blob, which is definitely not a new horror. Like, I saw it for the first time myself, like I said, just this morning. And I'm sure that there are people out there that have never seen this before in their lives. So if you had to sell a first-time viewer on watching the Blob, what would be your pitch?
I think we have to lead into the practical effects. You will see things here you have not seen anywhere else. It's not been replicated. It doesn't have a appropriate forebearer, even though it's a remake. The original didn't reach this. You think you've seen it all, you have not seen this. I think that would be the tagline we'd go with.
Yeah, if you think you've seen it all, then you haven't seen this.
Yeah, no matter how jaded you are, this has got some fun to show you. / terrify you with, depending on your threshold for horror.
Yeah, or if you're a gorehound like myself, you may just be going, yeah!
Yeah, if you're a gorehound, run, don't walk, get some popcorn and get sat down. People at home, this is one of those movies where the rights are up in the air. So I'm really hoping for like a big re-release as we head towards the new one. Should have the new one, it should turn up everywhere. But at the moment, it's in that limbo where it's fully uploaded on YouTube and at high quality, and nobody cares. So it's very accessible to get to at the moment right now. And I never feel bad recommending that to horror fans, because horror fans are the ones who'll go and watch it somewhere that they can, whether that's rental, friend's place, borrow it, or go and watch it like, oh, it was on YouTube. And then they will be there queued up day one for the big re-release. So horror fans are best fans.
Yes, horror fans, horror community, best fans, best community. And I'm not biased at all. Maybe I am biased. Okay, now we're to the part of the podcast that I like to call the retro lightning round. So I've got some questions that are Blob related, and you can give the first answer that comes to your mind, or you can go on about your answer as long as you want. So it's basically a retro lightning round in spirit. So, are you ready?
Bring it on.
All right. So, first question. If the Blob was after you, what would be your survival strategy?
Walk-in freezer.
Very easy. Good one. Good one.
Now, the trick is that that's not necessarily enough. So it's a bit harsh. Like, you heard the old joke, like, two friends are out camping, and then a bear starts breaking into the tent, and one of the friends starts tying up his boots, and the other one looks at him incredulously. He's like, how do you think you're outrunning a bear that's right there? And he just says to his friend, I don't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun you. So you've got to go into the walk-in freezer where you're safe temporarily, and then you've got to wait for the screaming to move further away, so you know it's like you've got room to run. Someone else needs to be on the menu, it's just going to wait there for you. But like, the first thing you do, break into a restaurant and go straight in the walk-in freezer.
I think that's a good survival strategy. That's probably one that I would take too. All right, next question. What horror creature or monster do you think could actually take down the Blob?
That is so difficult because you basically can't. So, like, physically, the Blob would win. It just absorbed whatever was trying to fight it. Like, let's put it against Joe Carpenter's The Thing. Oh, I'm sorry, The Thing, your biological matter is going to dissolve you. So you'd want something then that's like visceral, not visceral, why did I say that? Possessing kind of thing. You want like Pazuzu, but the Blob probably hasn't got a mind. So like, if it could possess the Blob, you've got a scarier demon-fueled Blob, or it just wouldn't work as no mind. So it'd have to be a cold-based monster. So the one horror monster that could take it is from the utterly terrible Jack Frost horror movie. The really stupid and crap serial killer who possesses snow would have the only chance I could think of actually taking on the Blob. There's plenty the Blob couldn't beat, just because they don't have a physical body. But the only thing I could think of that would do it have to be cold-based, and the only thing I can think of that's cold-based is really crap. So we're looking at rock, paper, scissors here. Crap B-movie snowman monster beats otherwise unbeatable Blob.
That would actually be really awesome. It can't be horror movie. That would be really fun. Oh. All right. When it comes to the Blob, do you think it works better or best, I should say, as a serious horror film, as campy fun, or somewhere in between?
So your mileage may vary. The thing is, though, this is a remake. You have options. If you want campy fun and you want to involve younger viewers, you go to 58. If you want to be horrified, and even if that's just you're a gore hound and you just point at the screen going, yes, because you've got everything wired wrong now because you're a gore hound, you've got 88. So I think having a remake that's got such a tonal shift helps you split that one up.
Yeah. And speaking of the remake, the next question has to do with that. Since we are getting a remake or a sequel, or whatever they're going to call it, just we don't know really exactly where they're going with it. But in that movie, what would you want to see done differently?
I want more. Go bigger. Yeah, so we put in this, it's a small town, and we don't see everyone. And it has one of my favourite beats of the third act is where the town bands together and starts defending themselves. They start barricading the town hall, they start using CO2 extinguishers to fight back. It's a losing battle, but it buys time and they don't know they bought time. It's a really good story beat moment. I want to see a city go to hell. I want the floor to be lava, only it's Blob. You've got people who are in high rises who kind of survived, and the streets are running with pure death. I want to see it go bigger.
Yes, that would be really awesome. Just more Blob, more death, more destruction.
Yeah, the technology is advanced. Go bigger.
I would 100% agree with that. And then the last question of the retro lightning round. What is the horror hill that you're willing to die on when it comes to this movie, The Blob?
Both kids should have died. They're annoying.
Oh my god. God. Yeah, this is definitely quite the hill to die on, I must say.
Yeah, listeners, let me know if you agree.
Yes, if you agree with his horror hill that you're willing to die on, drop your thoughts in the comments. I would definitely like to know if you're as horrible as he is.
Not as horrible as those kids were.
Okay. So, all right. So before we wrap things up here, so to everybody out there, I agree 100% with Luke's assessment about this movie. So if you are listening, if you have never seen The Blob, or if it's been a while since you have seen it, you definitely need to go and check it out because it still hits hard. So the practical effects are excellent. The kills are gruesome. The idea of paranoia just in this movie, just you're all screwed, that hits really hard. And then you have that little freaking tease at the end with this crazy reverend who has a bit of the Blob in a jar, which also may leave another opening of something to do for the reboot or remake or whatever they're calling it to follow.
The reboot quill.
Yeah, the reboot quill. There we go. That's a great name for that. I'm gonna start calling that from now. Reboot quill. But Luke, it has been an absolute blast talking with you about the Blob remake. So thank you for coming on and talking with me just about this really cool, awesome horror movie. I really appreciate it.
It's been really fun to go and chat with you. I've been looking forward to this for ages.
Yes, yay! And I'm glad that we finally got to do it and that our schedules aligned and that we were finally able to talk about this. But before I let you go, why don't you tell everybody out there where they can find you on social media or where they can find find and listen to your podcast?
You can find me on social media mostly as myself, Luke Greensmith, although on Threads and on Instagram it'll be Luke Greensmith Scary Bits. There is, alas, more than one Luke Greensmith, so if you go Google the name, a French chef is above me. I will defeat him one day. Unknown nemesis. There's LukeLaw.com. You can find Luke Law anywhere you find podcasts. And we do have a good reach on that, at least. It's had a hiatus for most of this year for an assortment of health and movie reasons, which will hopefully have a big payoff, but it should hopefully be up and running again before this episode drops, and we have quite the back catalogue. Go forth and find the cheese episode.
The cheese, yes. We definitely have to listen to the episode about the cheese. I'm gonna listen to that myself because I have cheese.
What's not to love?
And, yeah, what's not to love about cheese? If you love cheese or something, if you don't love cheese, there's something wrong with you. I will make sure to have all the links to everything and the podcast and some places where to listen to it down in the description below. And remember, everybody, drop your thoughts on whether you agree with his horror hill to die on about this movie.
Come on, everyone, rally together. Do you think both kids should have died? Do you think both should have lived? Or do you think one of each was good balance? Where are you on that one?
There we go.